Okay, guys, so this is a very serious topic. And what's happening when it comes to Yellen, Janet Yellen, and her descriptions in her speeches, we are running into a very unique situation. The federal government can't really afford to take on more loans because it can't really afford to make its payments on those new loans. Why does the government take out a loan? It's because it doesn't have enough operating cash. It's not liquid enough to go ahead and pay for all the things it needs to pay for. So, as a result of that, they take out a loan. Just like we take out a car loan, just like we take out a house loan, just like we take out an education loan, they take out a loan. Now, the problem is that we've reached this point, which is why it's unique, where we can't really, as a country, afford to pay back that loan, or put another way, make the monthly payments. Now, usually these loans, they're due every 6 months, every year, whatever. We owe the most money to Japan. A close number two is China. So, what happened is they started to come out over the past couple of days with updates, specifically, essentially, with some scary terms in them. Here's one: Social Security payments could be disrupted if debt ceiling isn't raised, says Yellen. This is from gobankingrates.com. First notation on it, and this was by Bonnie Cash UPI that basically did the imaging for it. While Republicans and Democrats barter over what to do about the debt ceiling crisis, U.S. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen issued a grim warning this week. Let's go into it. Okay. Yellen's remarks were part of a prepared speech she was scheduled to deliver on April 25th, my birthday, in Washington, D.C. And here's the important part: to a group of California business executives. Okay. Now, with that said, your brain right off the bat should be saying, why was she doing a report on April 25th in Washington, D.C. to a group of California business executives? Like, what's the purpose of that? What they're really saying there is bankers. She was talking to bankers. Okay. Now, a default, this is the continuation of the article, a default on the nation's debt will result in a long list of problems for Americans, she said, ranging from job losses to higher payments on mortgages, auto loans, and credit cards. Now, why is that? A lot of the mortgages and the loans that we have out there are backed by the government. But when the government can't pay its bills, those loans being secured by a AAA status, government, then no longer have the same protections, and the rates increase, which means the amount of money that's due increases. There's a collapse, a massive collapse that occurs. She quoted, "A default on our debt would produce an economic and financial catastrophe," Yellen said. "A default would raise the cost of borrowing into perpetuity," on and on and on and on. Okay. "Future investments would become substantially more costly," which is ironic because President Biden just pushed the whole passing of, people of good credit, let's just call it like it is, basically punishing them so that people with poor credit can go ahead and get into the game. So what's interesting is that that is all happening while this is going on, which is funny because, look, let's just be honest about it. A lot of the politicians, many of them have filed bankruptcy. Many of you don't realize that, but the worst business people that we have in this country are our politicians. Another thing you might be interested to know is that there's quite a few politicians who were attorneys, but they were kicked out of their bar. Yeah, their bar license was removed. Quite a few of them, high percentage. So with that said, kind of the worst business personnel that we have in this country at high levels, like the failed executives, they end up in what's called politics. Just kind of like the failed business people, they end up in what's called university. All right. She also repeated earlier warnings that if the debt ceiling is not raised, the government will likely be unable to issue payments to military families and seniors who depend on Social Security to pay their bills. Those statements echoed earlier warnings Yellen issued back in February when she said it's unlikely that the federal government would be able to issue payments to millions of Americans, including our military families and seniors who rely on Social Security. So, what she's saying is VA benefits and Social Security benefits will at some point be halted. Okay. Yellen joins many leading lawmakers and senior advocates in warning about the threat of a default would pose to Social Security. Although the program is supposed to be protected in the event of a default by the Social Security escape clause, okay, and we'll do a whole video on that, some experts say that that clause won't necessarily protect benefits for everyone. There's a good chance, a quote, that benefits for retirees and people with disabilities and survivors would be disrupted. The National Committee to Preserve Social Security and Medicare's Dan Adcock told CNBC in January, okay, after the debt ceiling has been reached. Okay. Now, I want to talk about some of the details with this. Okay. The SSA agency, one of the things that they're really worried about is not so much will the money be in the trust funds. The money's going to be in the trust funds. We're not so worried about will the government put the little fingers on the trust fund money? Will they use it? Will they take it? We're not so worried about that. I'm going to do a video on why that's unlikely. What we're worried about is the agency's ability to process payments. Some of you believe that it's all automated, wonderful, and super dupe. But I mean, just think every time the government comes out with a website, every time the government comes out with a system or a military tactical plan, it's shit. It doesn't work. It's always just, it's not good. And that's because it's got to cater to like a lot of people, and any little problem in it it's going to fail. And it's going to fail big time. So here's my thought pattern, on specifically at the SSA, what will be shut down first and what will be needed to go ahead and actually halt payments or slow payments or reduce payments, so that you understand the forecast of if this thing evolves into what people are saying it could, when your payments might be less or you might have a delayed payment. The SSA is an agency. It's a big one with the American group of agencies. It's one of the big ones that reports directly to the president. But in being that, it's kind of a fragile one. The first thing upon reaching this June 1st area is that you'll notice that the SSA will cut off essentially having in-person office visits. They'll shut that off because they don't want people going in there and sucking up the time with local field office reps. So you're going to see in-person, interviews, in-person meetings, in-person notice, action required situations. Those will be cut off. You won't be able to go to the office. You'll have to call the 800 number. Also, you'll notice right up front that the specialty outreach programs, the programs where they'll have a new program that reaches out to the gay community or the Native American community or the Native Islander community, etc., that those will be just cut, right? Just right off the boom, cut. Any person doing any of that stuff will be repurposed to something else to try and keep payments going. The next thing that will happen is that schedulers for attorneys' fees will be stopped. Medical CEs being set up, right? Consultative examinations, those will be cut. Those will be stopped. The reason why is they're going to try and probably continue to process claims with the attorneys just waiting and waiting to get paid. When we have this whole situation happen back in the day when COVID happened, right? For all those like people in the chat who are going to be like, they're not going to do anything. That's never going to happen. Actually, let me explain what did happen. When we had the whole COVID situation, there were a large, we had a delay in attorneys' fees being paid. And as a result of that, my like having enough money to pay for the employees and stuff like that, that ran out. Because, you go through a couple months and boom, all the money's gone. It goes to the employees. The employees are the most expensive thing that work at the firm. So then I had to take out one of those like 25 grand government assist yada yada loans. So the point is like, that's what will probably happen next. The attorneys will not be getting paid for the claims that they've already won or that will be won in the not too distant future. So expect people to have a hard time getting representation. Cool. Next thing, number 3, all hearing offices will likely become telephonic, right? They'll go ahead and shut down the in-person hearings because they just want it to be streamlined, quick, and telephonic. That way, they're not also building higher utility bills, higher AC bills, higher this bills, higher that bills, whatever. They can keep things at a minimum temperature, only have the office manager go in, stuff like that. Number 4, all CDRs, continuing disability reviews, with the CDI units, the people that investigate you if they want to see if there's fraud, all that stuff will be paused. All of it will be paused, rescheduled, pushed farther down the line. Number 5, then you will start to see very likely payment processing being delayed. If it reaches this point, your retirement benefits, your VA benefits, your Social Security benefits will all be reduced, halted, or delayed. What is our expectation for all of these things to happen? Well, we don't know how bad actually is, but we know that the federal government is now starting to reach out to essentially mega banks to explain how bad it's going to get. And the government doesn't usually put on the knee pads and go and beg the mega banks to potentially step in if to give a loan if the problem is really bad. So what we're expecting is that, in my opinion, it'll take 2 to 3 months for them to basically go ahead and have these different functions wind down. And let me explain why this will happen. What will happen is the SSA will continue to have their employees process things as they normally do. At some point, those employees will get wise to the fact that the government is not able to pay them. The SSA will take the betting fashion and say, if we keep the employees working, hopefully the politicians will work it out. So we'll keep them working. We won't pay them, but they'll fix it, and then we'll pay them back, right? They'll get about 2 to 3 months out of their employees at the SSA with that logic. The logic of, we can't pay you now, but we'll pay you in the future. However, once again, another reason why this is a unique situation, the SSA is already significantly understaffed. And when I say significantly, I don't mean really understaffed. I mean historically, holy shit, understaffed. Losing 1,000 people a month below 25-year-ago levels of actual employees, which means that they're already having a tough time keeping employees, and they're already low on employees, which means that those who are likely to potentially quit are just going to quit, which will speed up this whole thing of the SSA promising employees, the employees saying, I don't give a shit, and the SSA employees leaving. That will hasten this problem. So with that said, there's a lot of things that could make this be a month-long issue, a 2-month-long issue, or maybe stretch it out to 3 months. But what they're saying is, Yellen, June 1st, that's when it runs out. Now, what she's really getting at there is that they will still have some base reserve stuff here and there, but the main functioning funds will run out. And so the problem with that is that when you have an agency that large with that many payments to process and that many claims to process, for new applicants for retirement disability benefits, you don't have the option of not having a constant stream of income coming in to go ahead and pay for things. As a result of this, the Republicans and the Democrats are going to have to kiss and make up and find a solution. But I guarantee you, even though they have said that Social Security benefits will not be a part of the discussion and blah, 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 there will still be Republicans and Democrats on both sides screaming. One side will say we need to reduce benefits, increase restrictions. The other side will say we need to leave them alone and touch nothing. We got into this situation because the shittiest business people on earth in this country specifically are running our country. There's no reason why. Look, all right, if I'm fair, and if you guys can be fair with me on this and we can just have an okay relationship where I'm just being honest with you, you're being honest with me. Joseph Biden could not run an ice cream stand at this point. He couldn't. He wouldn't have the faculties to do it. He just wouldn't. then there are other business individuals who could run it, could do a very good job. But at the end of the day, we don't have those people. We have the people that smile and give a great speech. That's the reality. So the problem we run into is we're stuck. We're stuck with great politicians who could smile, but also people who can't actually make things work, who don't know how to build or replace a cog when it breaks. As a result of that, we have to rely on the agency heads. This is going to be the ultimate test of Commissioner Kijakazi during this time frame, during this presidency of President Biden. I say this, and it's unfortunate because Commissioner Kijakazi wants to do a great job. She's waited her whole life to be in this executive position as the acting commissioner to do amazing things for the SSA. But let's be fair here. She doesn't have the extra funding she needs. Massive inflation has hurt her funding as it is. She doesn't have the staff right now. So when she was handed the reins to the castle of the Social Security Administration, what she was really handed was essentially like a barn with a bunch of, sick animals. So the problem is she's not having the time to create the new and the future and the this and the that. She's just trying to keep it processing benefits as they are and processing initial claims as they come in. So then we have to consider, what is a weakened Social Security Administration going to do? Because when it comes to an agency that large, you can't have a skeleton crew take on more of a problem, because at some point it just starts to fail. So my suggestion to everybody is that realistically, they'll get about, if we do hit that June 1st date, about another 2 months out of it before benefits start to get cut. And they'll be cut not in the sense of the funds not being available for SSDI or retirement benefits. They'll get cut because the staff needed to process the payments just won't be there. They won't be available. They might try to automate it and just have it keep, doing its thing. That would be the best potential option. I don't know how extreme these discussions between the Republicans and the Democrats are going to get, but I do know this. In my lifetime, the most extreme version of a political battle, a war, if you will, it was like a World War Biden v. Trump situation. That's what we had. It was that big. It was massive. It was something beyond what I ever believed could happen. I believe 2024 to the 2025 elected cycle will be a bigger war than that of the 2000 era. I truly believe that will be even bigger. So if that's true and the politicians intend to go that big with it, the Democrats will blame the Republicans for basically not passing and taking on more debt. The Republicans will take say the Democrats have created a system that's going to fail. Both are correct. Both are absolutely correct. If we take on more debt and we can't afford it, then our loan system fails. And those bonds, by the way, that all of our FICA money goes into, those will essentially devalue. And then our trust funds will run out very quickly, which means that you, the elderly, retired, and the disabled, will be relying on my generation, which doesn't make nearly as much, doesn't have all the benefits available to it. It's just, we don't live that good of lives. We're probably going to die a lot sooner than you. And, we're very likely to not be able to fund your retirement. And the next generation, when it comes to us, won't be able to fund our retirement. So if our AAA rating does default, everything does unfortunately take a swipe or a hit, or however you want to put it. But the thing to watch that is the most destructive out of everything, even though, yes, I know you couldn't live without getting that check every month. I get that. But something even more destructive than that would unfortunately be the devaluation of our AAA rating as a country's ability to have bonds, give out loans, etc. Guys, I just wanted to explain this to you. I hope you understand why it's important. We did go through the timeline and the forecast of time as to what will happen at the SSA. We will go through basically that protection clause in another video. and then we'll go from there. But for now, I've got to go write some briefs, and then I'm going to do something special tonight. I'm actually going to go to the movie theater. Yes, I'll be doing it alone. Yes, that's kind of lame, but whatever. So I will catch you a little bit later. Please remember to like, subscribe, and leave 5-star reviews. To leave a 5-star review, Disability Resolution Florida. You just Google that, Disability Resolution Florida, and leave a 5-star review. I'll catch you a little bit later. Have a wonderful night, and we'll go from there. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.